Today I am making a chocolate caramel cake. The cake is a chocolate base, and then I make a caramel that I soak the cake in. So we're gonna start with 2 cups all-purpose flour, 2 cups granulated sugar, a 3/4 cup cocoa powder, a teaspoon and a half of baking soda, a teaspoon and a half of baking powder, and a teaspoon of salt. And then we're going to mix those dry ingredients together. Now that we have all the dry ingredients mixed together, we're gonna add 2 cups of hot water. And hot water helps the cocoa powder bloom and become more flavorful. Then we're gonna add half a cup of sour cream, half a cup of milk, half a cup of vegetable oil, 2 eggs, and a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Now that everything is mixed together, but there's still clumps in there, I'm gonna actually switch to my whisk, and I'm going to whisk it until it's nice and smooth to get rid of those clumps. All right, now that I've whisked it together and it is smooth, it's ready to go into the cake pans and hop into the oven at 325 degrees for about 25 to 30 minutes. Okay, the cake has been separated into 3 light metal 9-inch cake pans. You can use 9 or 8-inch, and now it's gonna go into the oven. Okay, here are all the cakes freshly out of the oven. We're gonna let them cool before we poke them and just soak them in that fresh homemade caramel sauce. Now I'm gonna make the caramel sauce that goes in, soaks the cake with. So I'm gonna start with a saucepan, and I'm gonna add a cup of granulated sugar. And I'm gonna place this over medium-high heat until it starts to clump up and then turn golden, and then it will melt. Once it's melted, you know it's ready. So I'm gonna go ahead and start cooking that. Okay, this is how the sugar looks right before it starts to melt. This part can start to freak people out because it is very clumpy, but it's gonna melt. Okay, now all the sugar has melted. We're gonna slowly add in our butter. It's gonna steam up quite a bit. And I'm gonna continue to do this until all the butter is added, and then I'm gonna add in all the cream. The trick is slowly so that we don't shock the really hot sugar into hardening. Okay, now that all the butter is added, we're gonna slowly start pouring in our cream until all the cream is added. The last thing that you add is a pinch of salt, and the caramel is done. Okay, now I'm gonna make the chocolate frosting with powdered sugar, 6 cups of powdered sugar, 2 cups of butter, a bag of chocolate chips, and 1/4 cup of heavy whipping cream. Now for the chocolate, we're actually gonna make a ganache to go into the buttercream. So we're gonna add that 1/4 cup of cream to the chocolate chips and slowly melt it in the microwave. Okay, now that we have a thick chocolate ganache, we're gonna add this to the buttercream, which is just the butter and the powdered sugar whipped together, and make a chocolate buttercream. We have everything ready for the cake. So we've made a chocolate cake, we've made chocolate frosting, we've made homemade caramel sauce, and then we're also gonna top it with some Heath English toffee pieces. So let's get this assembled. Now that the cake has cooled, I have it on some plastic wrap, and I'm gonna go through and poke with like a skewer, something thick, so that I actually make some good holes to hold that caramel and soak through the cake. And then I'm gonna pour in the caramel. And creating those holes makes it go seep into the cake. You can see it fill up the holes. And you can see it soak in. And then once it's soaked into the cake, I'm gonna pull up the plastic wrap and wrap the whole thing and set it into my freezer to chill so that it will frost. See it just evaporate into this cake. So it's important to have it chilled when I frost this cake. Okay, all the caramel is soaked in. So I'm going to wrap it up. And place it in the freezer for at least 30 minutes. Okay, the cakes are all chilled from the freezer, so I'm going to assemble. I'm gonna put down some chocolate frosting to make sure that the cake stays in place. I'm gonna unwrap the plastic wrap. Then I'm going to scoop on some icing and sprinkle on some Heath bits. I'm gonna repeat that with another layer of cake. Center it on, and then ice some more. And sprinkle on some toffee bits. Then the final layer. Now I'm frosting the outer edges with a crumb coat. And the top. Now after it's all frosted with this first layer, I'm going to place it back in the freezer for about 10 minutes and then frost it with the final layer so that it looks all nice and even. Okay, the crumb coat is chilled to the touch, see? It's been in the freezer for about 10 minutes. Now I'm gonna make my final coat to just get a smooth finish that doesn't show the cake through. Okay, after I do the sides, I just get the top. Try to get it even. Then I take my cake scraper, the outer edges, fill up any part that is missing frosting. Perfect. And then just get these ragged edges off. Now I have some in a piping bag, and I'm gonna make a decorative edge. And then put some more toffee bits in the center. And it's done.